As you can see, this is a nearly monochromatic painting, meaning that it consists of variations of one base color, in this case blue. I primed the paper with acrylic Sèvres blue, mixed with a lot of titanium white. I used this color before as a base color, but without titanium white. That wasn't an overall success, so I'm curious if it's gonna work with a lighter shade of Sèvres blue. I start slightly to the left of center, just above the horizon where the light of the setting sun is coming from. Ever more King's blue and Scheveningen blue on both the left and the right side. Due to the dark clouds, the sea also gets darker to the right, so I add more and more Rembrandt indigo as well as a bit of Prussian blue. Because the sun is low, only the tops of the small clouds are illuminated. I use Old Holland yellow middle here, without mixing it with titanium white. It's already light enough on its own. I mix the shadow color by blending the cloud color with its complementary, creating a gray. This way, the shadow and the light part remain connected. Closer to the horizon, the clouds get darker. That's why I added Rembrandt indigo to the mix. Just a little. It's quite a deep color and it quickly gets too much. Next is the underpainting of the dark cloud hovering over the sea. It's not very solid. In fact, at the edges it fades into the blue sky. I diluted the paint considerably with a liquid light gel, and as a result, the blue background is still shining through. You gotta be aware we're in the underpainting phase, where the different elements still need to find their place, and at best, with an indication of the final colors. Layer after layer, everything will fall into place. I start with outlining the flood line with a 002 Kolinsky brush. For the second row of tiny waves, I'm using a number 12 synthetic flat brush. Changing the direction of your brush stroke results in a natural variation of thick and thin lines. The outflowing water forms a thin reflective film on the beach. Its color and tonal value are largely determined by that of the sky directly above. With my number 12 flat brush, I apply broad vertical strokes, starting with a mix of indigo, sepia, and titanium white for the reflection of the dark cloud. An Old Holland yellow middle for the light cloud. The sea is at its darkest directly under the shadow in the central part of the cloud. Even though the surface is not smooth, as in the part that flows out onto the beach, the sky is still reflected. Okay, the tire tracks. I use a lot of liquid light gel here to make the paint flow easily. And again the handle in rag technique. By removing the paint in short strokes, the texture that is so characteristic of tire tracks is created. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. The tracks really added life to the painting. They still stand out a bit too much, but I will fix that in a later stage. The light clouds that just catch the light of the sun. With my number 4 cat's tongue brush, I paint a clear layer of Old Holland yellow middle and a little titanium white over the undercoat. This time with much less liquid. To get the maximum contrast, the paint should not be thinned down. As I said before, the tracks are still a bit separate from the sand. They are not yet an integrated part of it. That is why I'm making the beach in the foreground a bit darker. We're getting closer. To paint foam patterns, I like to use a synthetic flat brush for reasons I mentioned earlier, namely the natural way in which you differentiate between thick and thin lines, just by changing the direction of your brushstroke. And that's exactly what defines these patterns. Tiny clouds, love 'em. Just one dot to light it up. Et voila! Hold it, Barney, what are you doing? I'm not sure myself, but I want to darken the color of the sky on the left, and I figured that maybe a glaze of indanthrene blue would do the job, but it might be a bit too much. Let's see what happens when I spread it with my thumb. Still a bit much. Let's get out the rag. Okay, this is rather surprising. There's hardly any color left, but it's just the right amount to do the trick. As a result, the light clouds are getting even lighter. The final highlights on the whitecaps. And the reflection of the clouds with the same color mixture. Done.